Hello again. We are over at Lagoon Valley Park, I believe, over in Vacaville, California. The reason why I'm doing this video is to put some content into a test. Now this test is basically to see how my Sony previous rig that you see on the corner right here is going to be outdone by the new up-and-coming idle cam. You'll see that footage in just a bit, but I'm just filling it up with content while I'm actually doing this test on somewhat of a windy day here. But found out this is not a free parking area. This one actually requires you to pay something here. So anyway, that's pretty much it, and we'll start walking around and see whether or not this test is going to be worthwhile. Hopefully the audio's coming in and I'll be perfectly clear. Anyway, the first test I'm going to be conducting is going to be the stabilization test. Now, as I'm walking along this road here, oh, I see crap on the ground here. If you look, you'll more than likely see it, assuming that the resolution of this camera is going to pick it up. But this is the Sony Action Cam. I should have known that there were going to be some wildlife around here, as this is a natural reservoir. Well, of course, as you could see right in front of me in this, despite this wide-angle view, are ducks. Ducks that like to hang out in the water, obviously. Pardon me for the boring nature of this content, but it's something to fill in so that I could conduct a fairly accurate test of this equipment in numerous ways. But right now, like I said, this is this is the Sony setup, and I'll say it over and over again. What can I talk about that'll somewhat make this video test a little bit more interesting? I just hope I don't get ticketed over there for not paying for parking. Anyway, but that's besides the point. The point is that I'm trying to fill it up with some content here. Gorgeous scenery. I think it's close to 5 p.m. Right now, so the light isn't exactly the most ideal. The light's kind of besides me here. Other than that, what can I talk about? Zoom. Although I'm likely one of the guilty parties with Zoom users, but the one thing that really gets to me when people use it is when they don't frame, when they frame their shots in an awkward manner. For example, one way that I've seen people do it is by putting their heads towards the bottom here. I've seen that happen. Or I see people going off to the side like this, or like this on an extreme, even when the camera really isn't looking at anybody else. You know, they don't adjust, and I know it's a pain in the butt, but it doesn't look good for the viewer. Not that they care, but anyway, you use cameras enough, you'll become a little bit more sensitive than that, I would think. So anyway, one of the first things that I'll do here is walk down this little, take a look, see what kind of slope I had to climb down right now. Anyway, this is the Rode Stereo Video Mic Pro, so I'm expecting that it should be able to pick up my voice at about a foot and a half or so away from me. Hopefully it is very clear and the wind is not going to be too much of a distraction. But this looks like a man-made lake. I don't know if this is a natural lake and everything, but they do call it a reservoir. Reservoir for what? I mean, I don't think this is exactly drinking water. If anything, this is likely, what is it? Irrigation water? I don't know. But you could look around, take a look at the scenery. But this is at wide setting, I believe, and I think I'll change it to medium just before I sign off on this rig. Okay, this is idle cam using the standard wide-angle lens. This time I've got the Sony mic installed in the front. Let me get it straightened away, and we should be on our way here. I've been dying to test this camera in real conditions. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic we're facing, I really haven't had much of a chance to do so. So I figured I'd do it on somewhat of a good location, somewhat scenic, and we're over here at Lagoon Valley Road Park or something. Anyway, as I said in my previous test video with the Sony setup rig. Like I said in the previous video, this parking apparently isn't free, so I'm going to be making this very, very quick. Okay, so here we go. Just going to be doing the standard walking test. Hopefully the stabilizer, the gimbal, is going to be much more effective than the digital stabilizer that's built into the Sony. And hopefully my voice, which is about a foot and a half, just like the other one, away from the Sony ECM CS3 microphone, is in place. So other than that, what do you think? What do you think, guys? You think IdleCam is the perfect vlogging camera? I certainly hope so. One thing to note, though, that I do want to say, ooh, I'm in the shade. Feels good, though. One thing I do want to note is that the one thing Jason Lamb, the creator, did for IdleCam, which I really like, is the date and timestamp user option at the bottom right corner of the screen. The only feedback that I gave to him is that the fonts are a little bit too big, enough to be distracting. I understand what he explained to me. He said that it was originally set at the 4K setting, which I don't use. I like to use 1080 60p. That's my preferred frame rate. Other than that, it's just too big. He just needs to make it a little bit smaller so it's less of a distraction to the viewer. As you can see, it's pretty big. So how does this look and sound? Like I said, if conditions permitted, I would have filmed with my entire family on an outing or so, but unfortunately, like I said, because of the pandemic, really haven't had a chance to do that. And in a way, kind of a desperation effort I'm doing right here. I'm going to a local park in the area and doing a test in somewhat real conditions. I'm going down the little trail here, kind of dangerous. I know the sun is very strong. I'm not sure if you could see me with the shadow cast in front of me, but this is Lagoon Valley Lake. Ooh, am I too dark where you can't see me anymore because of the light behind me? Anyway, this is it. I will do a pan here, just like I did with the other one, only in the opposite direction. And that is the test of IdleCam using the standard wide-angle lens. I think I'm going to be testing the fisheye lens momentarily, just to see how that looks. I don't know if I intend to use it because the distortion is pretty aggressive. Pardon me, but my previous video with this Sony cam was actually at medium setting. This is its native wide fish angle lens because it's not quite as aggressive as the fish angle lens on IdleCam, but I wanted to give you a sample of this while I was out here. I do like this wide angle lens on Sony. The reason for that is because, like I said, it doesn't have that same pronounced fisheye distortion that is very prevalent on the IdleCam fisheye lens. So anyway, this is just a little sample again. Maybe this time I should talk about my challenges with Zoom. I have been trying to integrate karaoke into Zoom, directly into Zoom. The way some friends of mine are doing it is kind of crude. What they're doing is they go on Zoom just to make sure everybody's in the room, and they all take their turns queuing up who goes on karaoke. But when their turn comes up, they don't stay in Zoom. They go to Facebook Live, and then they do their song on Facebook Live. Now, the reason why I'm having an issue with that is because there are people on Facebook Live, unless I guess you set it a certain way, which is a pain in the butt that do that on a different platform, or you may forget that there's some people who you don't want to see them to see you on Facebook Live, maybe watching you. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather keep everything within Zoom. Unfortunately, trying to get quality audio and video synced together and not having variable volume issues have been a challenge. It has been hard. My friend Joji and I, we've been working our butts off trying to figure that out, but so far it hasn't worked yet. And we've been looking at YouTube videos, maybe if there's other people who actually were successful doing this. So far, I have not found anything. I mean, we found a couple of videos, or Joji found a couple of videos. We tested out the settings that they did, and guess what? It still didn't work. We still had issues with the sound quality. I mean, as of now, Facebook Live just sounds better when you just play the song and sing live and have the mic of your recording device, whether it's your camera or whatever, your phone. It still sounds better than everything that I've tried on Zoom internally. Oh, anyway, that is a challenge for us to figure out. Hey, if you guys know a way to integrate quality karaoke Zoom onto one platform without having to switch platforms, let me know. I'll be very happy if you guys have figured that out already. Okay, now we're using the fisheye lens. I'm not sure how much distortion is going to be visible on this, but I assume that it's going to be, oh yeah, you could see that pole behind me bend quite a bit when I was pointing to it. So anyway, this is another one of these boring tests. Like I said, ordinarily I would have shot in very realistic filming conditions. Ooh yeah, especially when there's a horizon, it tends to be very aggressive, which I would like to avoid. Jason did mention that he is working on an intermediate wide lens, which is between the standard wide angle lens, about 24 millimeter 35 equivalent, and the fisheye, which I'm holding right now. Hopefully, he says that it's wider and it doesn't have the fisheye distortion, which is a good thing. I think that intermediate lens is exactly what IdleCam needs at this point. Once again, this is a test of the configuration that you just saw on the previous video. So let me know, guys, what you think of IdleCam. Is it everything that it was actually it was cracked up to be? I've raved for it for the last 3 years, anxiously awaiting for the release of this camera. So this is long anticipated, that's all I could say. Having a lot of fun with it so far. So far I haven't really found any major quirks other than this large font size of the date and timestamp. The reason why I'm so big on that date and timestamp is because when I'm filming a documentary and I want to keep track of time, it's important to me because that's part of telling a story. That tells a story of when you got to a location, when you left, and all that other stuff. And it should be in small fonts at the bottom right of the screen, not so big that your attention gets thrown off with it. It should be to a point where if you know that it's there and you're looking for it, that's when you'll know where to find it. So anyway, that's why I insisted on having that date and time stamp in tiny fonts over in the lower right hand corner. More ideally, if you could make that font somewhat transparent, just like the way Yeelight does, that would be even better, because that way it's practically invisible unless you really are looking for it. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this test of IdleCam. Thanks, Jake.